Imagine this. A country that's been a cornerstone of the European Union suddenly starts drifting eastward, towards Russia, towards China, and now potentially into the orbit of BRICS. Hungary is no longer just the black sheep of the EU. It might be on the verge of a total geopolitical makeover. The big question is, why? Why is Hungary willing to risk isolation from the EU for stronger ties with Russia and China? What's driving this unprecedented pivot, and what are the consequences for Europe, NATO, and the global order? This is where things get very, very interesting. Let's set the stage. Hungary has been a proud member of the European Union since 2004. Yet, in recent years, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has taken a sharp turn, embracing policies that challenge the EU's core principles. Why? The short answer: national sovereignty. Hungary, under Orbán, feels that the EU has overreached its mandate, interfering in domestic matters like judiciary independence and media freedoms. This sentiment resonates deeply among many Hungarians who see their nation as a bastion of traditional values against what they perceive as a progressive EU agenda. A recent survey revealed that support for the EU has plummeted to around 47% among Hungarians, down from 80% a decade ago. The question on everyone's lips: is the EU still the best ally for Hungary? For Orbán, it seems the answer is increasingly no. With mounting pressure from the EU, Hungary is exploring alternatives. Hungary's pivot towards Eastern powers is more than a mere political stance. It's reshaping its entire role within the EU. Hungary has begun signing trade agreements that foster stronger ties with China and Russia, seeking to benefit from their growing markets. A prime example: Hungary is the first EU country to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure project that promises economic growth but ties nations to Chinese interests. Hungary's strategic realignment represents a significant challenge to EU unity. The bloc has prided itself on its collective foreign policy, and Hungary's actions could undermine that. This is not just about trade, it's about the ideological battle lines being drawn in Europe. As Hungary deepens its ties with the East, it raises concerns within the EU about a potential fracture among its member states. If you are enjoying our content, please hit the like button. To help us even more, please leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow. Thank you. Now, let's unpack what BRICS means for Hungary. BRICS, an acronym representing Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has emerged as a significant counterweight to Western institutions. Hungary views BRICS as a growing economic bloc with the potential for mutual benefit, especially in areas like energy, infrastructure, and investment. This shift is not incidental. BRICS nations are becoming increasingly influential in global trade, outpacing the G7 in terms of GDP growth. In 2022, BRICS nations accounted for about 31% of the world's GDP, while the G7 held just 30%. This is an undeniable signal that the center of economic gravity is shifting, and Hungary is positioning itself to be part of this emerging narrative. However, Hungary's dependence on Russian energy complicates its EU relations. Hungary's energy strategy is a significant point of contention. Despite EU sanctions against Russia following the invasion of Ukraine, Hungary has continued to import gas from Russia, undermining the collective efforts of the EU. The Hungarian government has argued that energy security is a national priority, making it necessary to maintain these ties. Hungary's insistence on Russian gas reflects a broader dilemma facing many European nations. They are caught between the need for energy security, the fear of the EU and the US breathing down their necks, and the imperative to reduce dependence on Moscow. According to the Hungarian Energy Ministry, about 85% of Hungary's gas imports still come from Russia. This dependence not only poses risks for Hungary's relationship with the EU, but also complicates its standing in international forums. Amid these energy debates, Hungary has also taken a controversial stance on military aid. During a critical moment in European security, Hungary's government decided to veto EU military aid to Ukraine. Orbán's administration argues that military support could escalate tensions and harm Hungary's national interests. This controversial stance puts Hungary at odds with both NATO and the EU during a significant international crisis. This isn't just about Ukraine. It's about Hungary reasserting its autonomy in a highly polarized environment. The implications for NATO unity are concerning. With NATO membership comes expectations of solidarity, and Hungary's actions raise alarms among its allies. How can Hungary justify this stance while still being a member of NATO? It's a delicate balancing act, and many in the West are left scratching their heads. As Hungary navigates these turbulent waters, it also finds itself delaying Sweden's NATO membership. Hungary's delay in ratifying Sweden's NATO membership has raised eyebrows. While Orbán claims that it's a matter of national security, many speculate that Russia's influence is at play. Hungary's hesitance stems from Sweden's criticisms of Hungary's democratic backsliding. Reports suggest that Hungary may be using its veto power as leverage, sending a clear message to the EU that it won't be bullied into compliance. Is this a strategic move, or a sign that Hungary is becoming a pawn in a larger geopolitical game? Now, let's turn our attention to Hungary's emerging alliance with China. Hungary's alliance with China is becoming increasingly important in the EU. As the only EU country that openly supports China's Belt and Road Initiative, Hungary is positioning itself as a critical link between Europe and Asia. This partnership has led to significant investments in infrastructure, technology, and education. However, it's not without risks. Critics argue that Hungary is jeopardizing its sovereignty by becoming too reliant on Chinese investments, which could lead to significant leverage over its policies. The relationship with China opens doors, but could also entangle Hungary in a web of obligations that may undermine its position in the EU. But what does Hungary's participation in the Belt and Road Initiative mean for its economic future? Hungary's participation in China's Belt and Road Initiative presents both opportunities and challenges. While the initiative promises economic growth and infrastructure development, it also creates dependencies that could shape Hungary's future trajectory. In 2022 alone, Chinese investments in Hungary exceeded $1 billion, primarily in transportation and energy sectors. This influx could boost Hungary's economy in the short term, but what happens when the bills come due? While the immediate benefits are clear, the long-term implications of this dependency on China could be far-reaching and potentially harmful to Hungary's autonomy. Could Hungary's growing ties with BRICS and China signal the start of a major shift in global power dynamics? As we connect the dots, the question looms larger. Is Hungary's embrace of BRICS and China a precursor to a significant shift in global power? This isn't merely a tale of one nation turning its back on the West. It's a reflection of a broader tectonic shift in global alliances. Countries around the world are increasingly looking towards alternative partnerships, away from the traditional Western bloc. Emerging economies, tired of being sidelined in the global conversation, are finding common ground. The BRICS coalition is steadily expanding, with countries like Argentina, Egypt, and Iran expressing interest in joining. Hungary's alignment with these nations could very well be a signal to the West. The game is changing, and so are the rules. The idea of a multipolar world is gaining traction. Nations like Hungary are playing a pivotal role in this transition by aligning themselves with BRICS, which could lead to a restructuring of global power dynamics. This is not just about economics, it's also about influence and control over future global governance. Hungary's burgeoning relationship with China and Russia represents more than mere economic pragmatism. It signals a shift away from the historical Western hegemony that has dominated international relations since World War II. With BRICS actively working to create its own financial systems, like the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, there's a concerted effort to provide an alternative to Western-led institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. In 2023, BRICS nations accounted for approximately 44% of the global population and 31% of the world's GDP. With such statistics, it's clear that this coalition holds significant economic clout. By aligning itself with BRICS, Hungary may be positioning itself not only for immediate gains, but also for long-term influence as the world's geopolitical landscape continues to evolve. Moreover, Hungary's involvement in projects like China's Belt and Road Initiative suggests a deeper commitment to these partnerships. The initiative aims to enhance trade routes connecting Asia to Europe, and Hungary is strategically situated as a gateway for these investments. This positioning could foster significant economic growth, but it also raises concerns over the extent of China's influence in the region. As Hungary forges ahead, questions about the implications for its citizens and the broader European community continue to mount. Hungary's strategic decisions resonate beyond its borders, prompting serious implications for EU solidarity and unity. The bloc, which has often prided itself on collective action and shared values, is now facing the reality of dissent from within. Hungary's shift towards BRICS could spark a domino effect, inspiring other member states to explore their own independent paths. Recent polls indicate a growing Euroscepticism among citizens in other EU countries, with countries like Poland and Italy expressing similar sentiments to Hungary's government. This discontent could catalyze a wave of similar political realignments throughout Europe, further fracturing the unity that has characterized the EU for decades. If Hungary continues down this path, we could see a reconfiguration of EU priorities. Member states may feel pressured to either align with Hungary's new direction or take a stand to reassert the EU's collective vision. This predicament forces EU leaders into a difficult position: how to respond to Hungary's defiance without alienating an increasingly skeptical electorate in other member states. The challenge lies in balancing the need for unity with respect for national sovereignty, a tightrope that could ultimately determine the future of the EU itself. As the EU grapples with these challenges, let's explore how Hungary's actions may affect its economy and those of its EU partners. The economic implications of Hungary's pivot towards BRICS are multifaceted. On one hand, Hungary stands to gain immediate benefits from increased trade with non-EU nations, especially China and Russia. Projects under the Belt and Road Initiative could lead to infrastructure investments that stimulate local economies. In 2023, estimates suggest that Chinese investments in Hungary could contribute to a GDP growth of 1 to 2%, particularly in the manufacturing and technology sectors. This influx could help revitalize regions hit hard by economic downturns, creating jobs and improving local standards of living. However, the long-term ramifications of deepening ties with BRICS could lead to an over-reliance on these partnerships. If global markets shift again, Hungary might find itself vulnerable. Moreover, Hungary's actions could also result in economic isolation from EU partners, especially if tensions continue to escalate. Trade relations within the EU might suffer, impacting Hungary's exports and creating economic ripples that could affect broader European stability. The EU operates on a principle of interdependence. Hungary's move towards BRICS could be seen as a betrayal, leading to potential trade barriers or sanctions imposed by its European neighbors, undermining its economic viability in the long run. In the face of these challenges, Hungary faces critical choices ahead. Hungary must navigate a complex landscape filled with potential pitfalls and opportunities. As it continues to strengthen ties with BRICS, the Hungarian government must consider how to balance its newfound alliances with its commitments to the EU and NATO. The government is already signaling that it will not back down from its position on energy and military policies. As Orbán himself stated, Hungary will not sacrifice its sovereignty for external pressures. This determination could shape Hungary's foreign policy for years to come. Moving forward, Hungary must strategically weigh its options. It can either strengthen its position as a bridge between East and West, or risk becoming a pariah in the EU. The choices it makes now will define its role on the global stage. This juncture is critical, not only for Hungary, but for Europe as a whole. How will the EU respond to a member state pursuing a path that diverges so sharply from its foundational values? This tension will likely dominate political discourse in the years to come. Hungary's journey from a loyal EU member to a potential BRICS ally is more than just a national narrative. It is a reflection of a world in flux. As Hungary navigates its newfound alliances, the implications will reverberate throughout Europe and beyond, challenging existing paradigms and testing the resilience of international institutions. So, what does the future hold? Will Hungary's actions catalyze a broader shift in global power dynamics? Only time will tell. One thing is certain: as the world evolves, so too must our understanding of these intricate relationships. We hope you are enjoying this video. We're thrilled to have you with us today. If our content struck a chord or sparked some inspiration, go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe to join our awesome community. Please share this video to help us grow. Your support is super valuable. Check out another video from our channel, which is now on the screen.